a new thing for us.
Let's request the very last one.
What?
So it's all quiet.
But all the show effects come first. I'm gonna think of the center. You guys went back here? Just for you, Marsha.
Spear chucker.
I don't know, I didn't. I'll show you up there.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome aboard the Universal Studio Tour presented by Kodak. Kodak has long been a pioneer in the world of motion pictures, bringing the technological advances that bring your favorite movies to the big screen. I'm Erin. I'm going to be your guide today as we take you behind the scenes of one of the biggest and busiest movie and TV studios in the world. Now, each day, there's a whole lot going on out there, so we never know exactly what we're going to encounter. For your safety and your comfort while we're moving, we ask that you please remain seated at all times, keeping your arms and legs inside the vehicle. If you do drop something, or if something goes wrong, please just reach overhead. Pull the emergency cord that runs down the center of each car. We'll stop, and I'll be right back to help you out. We also ask that any small or easily frightened children be placed towards the center of the rows, away from the outside gates. And please be prepared. There's a slight possibility of getting wet on today's tour, so consider yourselves warned. Now, we should be getting out of here in just a few moments. Before we go, though, I would like to introduce you to a very, very important person. He is the one who's going to keep this show rolling for us today. Please say hello to driver Roberto. Hey, how you doing? All right, he's doing good. I'm doing good. I hope y'all are doing good, and we'll be getting out of here as soon as possible. Like Apollo 13 and the Oscar-winning Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my very great honor to introduce Ron Howard.
Hi, I'm Ron Howard, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Universal Studio Tour. You know, more movies and television shows have been shot on this lot than any other location in the world. And today, you're going to see where it all happens. But before we get too far into the tour, let me give you the setup for our story. Universal got its start in 1912 when visionary Carl Laemmle brought his movie company west and opened Universal Pictures. On March 15, 1915, Mr. Laemmle invited the public to visit his studio, and the Universal Studio Tour was born. You see, Mr. Laemmle believed that movies should make people laugh or cry or sit on the edge of their seats, and for the last century, Universal has been doing just that. I'll be back to check up on you guys a little later. In the meantime, we're going to turn things over to your guide. Have a great time, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Ron. Well, now that Ron Howard has told you a little bit about Universal's history, we're going to show you some of our history. This is our movie timeline. The original posters on both sides of the tram are just a few examples of the more than 8,000 movies we've made, many of them shot right here on the lot. In fact, over the years, we've been able to take our audiences almost everywhere, from the Wild West to ancient Rome, the streets of New York to the jungles of Africa, without ever having to leave Universal property. Now, how on earth is that possible? Well, let you in on a little secret. Movie making is based almost entirely on tricks and illusions. Nothing's ever as it appears to be here in Hollywood, and during today's tour, we'll be showing you plenty of examples. But first, I want to let you know we're still a working movie studio, and at more than 415 acres, we need an entire city to support us. So we have our own bank, post office, and even our own fire department, which happens to be located inside the white building on our right. That's fire station number 51. As you can tell by the trucks, it is a real, working Los Angeles County fire station, although it does borrow its name from the fictional fire station in the popular 70s television series Emergency. Now, Station 51 It's the place where we're really gonna leave the real world today and enter the world of cinematic make-believe. We're about to take you into our front lot, which is home to our 35 sound stages. Inside these buildings, we create any environment a story demands. And there's a great example of a soundstage directly ahead of the tram now. That is stage 12. It's one of the largest in the world, and because of its size, it has housed some of the largest sets in movie history, including the Visitor Center from Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. Check out your screens here, guys. The Visitor Center that we built right here on the left inside of stage 12 needed to be large enough to house a full-size T-Rex. We then simulated the destruction caused by the dinosaur, so when she was added in during post-production, it would all look absolutely believable. And now, as we leave that roaring dinosaur inside of stage 12, we're actually entering what is known as a quiet zone. They're currently working on the NBC television series Providence over here on the left in stages 25 through 22. They don't want my voice interfering with their filming, so I will be back on mic as soon as we get past the stages.
What is that smell?
All right, everybody, thank you very much for your patience. Right now, I want to turn your attention to the left-hand side, soundstage number 27. That's where we built the T-Rex paddock for the movie Jurassic Park, and it was also used for this scene in Apollo 13.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem.
For Ron Howard and Brian Grazer's hit film Apollo 13, NASA's mission control in Houston, Texas, was meticulously recreated right here on the Universal front lot inside of stage 27. Everything had to be exact for that film, down to the tiniest details. Now, in addition to making wonderful movies like Apollo 13, Universal also has one of the largest music companies in the world, with acts like Shania Twain and U2. And we're also known for creating and producing classic television shows. In fact, quite a few of your favorites were done in these stages on the right. Now, what shows have we produced? Well, it is a pretty long list. Let's see how many of these classics you guys remember watching. Television shows, and for that matter, all of our movies first come from? Well, for many, the answer is the buildings on the left. These bungalows house production offices for writers, directors, actors, and producers who currently have development deals with the studio. Development is the process where the filmmaker comes up with the idea for a movie, puts everything together, and then tries to get that movie produced. But you know, just like anywhere else, things change around here, and these buildings have not always been offices. In the early days, these were the dressing rooms for stars like Lucille Ball and Jimmy Stewart. In fact, coming up on the left-hand side, we're going to be passing a very important bungalow with a familiar silhouette next to the front door. This is it, Bungalow 5195, belonged to the incomparable Alfred Hitchcock, the director of classics like Psycho. Now, we all know Hitchcock best for scaring us with those great movies, but you know what? He was also a bit of a practical joker. In fact, Hitchcock liked to mess with his audiences by putting himself into nearly every single film he ever made. So let's see if you can spot the famous director in the following shots.
Good evening. My name is Alfred Hitchcock.
We all do a little math sometimes.
Well, as we leave Alfred Hitchcock behind, we're also leaving the front lot behind to begin our journey through the back lot. Now, this is our metropolitan area, and it's your first true look at a big Hollywood illusion. Look closely at these buildings, and you'll see they're not really complete buildings at all. They're just the fronts and the sides. Interior rooms are built on sound stages back in the front lot. And you know what? They're not made out of typical building material either. What appears to be brick and concrete is in many cases foam rubber, fiberglass, styrofoam, and plastic. That makes it much, much easier for us to change the appearance of our sets from one film to the next. So hopefully you guys won't recognize that we're using the same area over and over and over again as a variety of locations. And you can see they're actually decorating here today for an upcoming television commercial. But from the world of the commercials to the world of the movies, I don't think you guys are going to have much trouble recognizing the area we're entering right now. This is Courthouse Square, and it is much better known as Hill Valley from the Back to the Future films, starring Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. In fact, you'll probably remember Christopher Lloyd, starring as Dr. Emmett Brown, standing on top of that clock tower, harnessing a bolt of lightning to send Marty McFly back to the year 1985. Now, Michael J. Fox really did have to give an extremely versatile performance in the Back to the Future trilogy. He played the character Marty McFly, but he also played a middle-aged Marty, his son Marty Jr., his daughter Marlene, and even a distant relative from the 1800s. The Courthouse also gave a very versatile performance, portraying 3 time periods. First, 1955, then 1985, and last but not least, the future. The year in that case was 2015. And there it is, Courthouse Square as 2015. Believe it or not, the hole for that pond remains underneath this grassy area to this very day. We can recreate this look whenever required for filming. Now, in addition to appearing in the Back to the Future trilogy, Courthouse Square, and the courthouse in particular, were also featured in the classic film To Kill a Mockingbird, starring Gregory Peck. Mr. Peck actually stood on those steps as Atticus Finch before going inside defending his client. The interior of the courthouse was actually built on the soundstage that currently houses the Backdraft attraction in the theme park. Now, that movie was made a while ago. A bit more recently, we actually built some sets in the middle of this grassy area, and then we completely destroyed them, blew everything up. This is where we built the exterior of the Townsend Detective Agency in Sony Pictures' Charlie's Angels, with Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Bill Murray. Now, as we leave the Angels here in Courthouse Square, we're going to be crossing over what is the longest street in our metropolitan area. This is New York Street, and we call it that because it's appeared as the Big Apple in a number of films, including DreamWorks' The Peacemaker, starring George Clooney and Nicole Kidman. Now, how do we change this area from New York to Los Angeles to Hill Valley? Well, that's the job of a set decorator, and I want to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So, we're going to visit a decorated set right now where they're rehearsing this afternoon. They're working on a helicopter chase, and if you guys have cameras, this is definitely a good place to get them out because this movie features one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, and rumor has it he might be on set this afternoon.
Military units were rushing to the scene. This was last sighted nearly 200 block. We now have live coverage on scene for helicopter reporter Billy King.
We're now hovering above the wreckage of a crushed L train. The helicopter beside us is searching for... Wait! There's a tram full of people down there. You gotta go down and warn them. Attention, people on the tram! You are in danger!
What? We're supposed to be watching the rehearsal, not taking part in it. Hello? Guys, what's going on in here? issue big star, right? And 30 feet tall and 13,000 pounds. Good old banana breath definitely qualifies. King Kong is a great example of what we call a mechanical effect. Our mechanical monsters can be as small as several inches, like these Combi dinosaurs of the Lost World Jurassic Park, or they could be as large as a full-size T-Rex, which requires several skilled technicians to work it. Of course, when RKO Pictures was making the original King Kong in 1933, they did not have the benefit of the advanced robotic technology we have these days. So the original King Kong, who terrorized New York City, was actually a special puppet, stood only 16 inches tall. A great example of a Hollywood illusion. And of course, King Kong would have felt right at home here. We are back on New York Street. Now, as I mentioned, this street has been used as New York City in a lot of films, including the Columbia hit Stuart Little, but you've also seen them as San Francisco in Warner Brothers' Dirty Harry. They were used as Chicago in The Sting and the Blues Brothers, and they were even seen as a very psychedelic swingin' 60s London. New Line's Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me with Mike Myers and Heather Graham. The Curve Up Ahead, it's where they did the big musical number with Burt Bacharach and Elvis Costello. And now, guys, take a peek up at your screens. You'll get a look at New York Street in action, or you can see the action there on the right. Looks like they're filming a Christmas scene in there. Not all. Our Metro sets were also featured as Moscow this PAX holiday season in the DreamWorks hit Castaway, starring Tom Hanks. Now, Mr. Hanks is not the only great actor to work here, and Mr. Zemeckis, who directed Castaway, is not the only great director. We even worked with a huge legend from the early days of Hollywood, Mr. Alan Smithy. In fact, this is his bridge. It was built back in 1916 for his silent epic Descent. Now, sadly, in recent years, the bridges started to fall apart a little bit, so unfortunately, we can no longer take our very heavy vehicles. Oh, whoa! Where are you going, Roberta? Where do you go? I see that the road is closed, but the bridge is falling apart. We've got all these people on this tram. Hi. Okay, this is interesting. We've never come on the bridge before, but I'm sure it's sturdy. I mean, it's creaking a little bit, but it's been here since 1916. Well, what can I say? Oops! Did we do that? Yes, of course we did. As I hope you guys have guessed, we would not actually take you over a bridge that was built in 1916 and was falling apart. This bridge was built in the 1970s. It's used for episodes of TV shows like The $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, and Quantum Leap. The bridge operates hydraulically, and it puts itself right back together again. So the bridge, not real, but director Alan Smithy is. Sort of. Alan Smithy is the name the Directors Guild used to use when a filmmaker did not want to take credit for a project. Now, even though he is not a real person, Alan Smithy does have an official biography, he has several fan clubs, and he has a long list of credits, including classics like Blood-Sucking Pharaohs in Pittsburgh. Yeah, just can't imagine why the director would not want to take credit for that one. And you know what? We're not done with the Hollywood tricks yet. If you look on the left, you'll see some very large logs. Well, look closely. They're made out of styrofoam and foam rubber. Most of them have handles. Yep, here in Hollywood, sometimes even the nature has to be fake, but there's a good reason. Live plants have a hard time withstanding the intensely hot lights that are used inside of our sound stages. When leaves fall off artificial plants, we can just pick them up off the ground and staple them right back on again. And speaking of that artificial nature, we don't just use artificial plants. Sometimes we sort of doctor up our live plants as well. For example, we might paint the leaves of our trees red, yellow, orange. And you might recognize that miniature cabin. It was featured in the movie Dante's Peak. And now from Peak, to the Lost World Jurassic Park. If y'all look here on the left, this is the mobile lab that was pushed over a cliff by a pair of very angry Tyrannosaurus Rex parents. Now, you might remember that scene from the movie. It was really exciting. Did not know whether Julianne Moore was going to bust through the windshield and plummet to her death. Well, believe it or not, that scene was not filmed on a remote island somewhere. It was filmed right here at the studio using a parking garage back in the front lot. They used a crane to dangle the vehicle over the side of the parking garage, filmed the actors inside, and then later during post-production digitally added in the rocky cliff, the crashing waves, and the two giant dinosaurs. And for now, we'll leave those dinosaurs in the Lost World in order to take all of you on a little trip south of the border into Mexico, or at least our version. It's called Old Mexico, and you might recognize it from the opening scenes of Orion's Three Amigos with Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Chevy Chase. Today here at Old Mexico, our special effects designers are going to create a good old-fashioned thunderstorm for us. There it is. All right. Now, if you look out here to the left, you can see that the first effects needed for the storm are fairly simple. Lighting and sound effects to create lightning and thunder. Then we add rain. Cool. All right. Now, that rain is created by putting sprinklers in the tops of the trees and on the tops of the telephone poles. The water is then shot up into the air. When it falls back down to the ground again, it looks as though it is actually raining out here. Okay, guys, that's enough rain. Hello? They're not listening, which might be kind of bad news for us. You see, we really aren't equipped to handle extra rain here in this area. And since we're at the bottom of the valley, if it rains too hard at the top of the hill, it might cause that! A flood! Oh, a big one, headed straight for the tram. And you know what? That is very bad news because silly, silly me, I forgot to pack the towel. Oh! Yikes! Wow. Is everyone still dry? Second car, you guys still dry? Yeah? Okay, darn, didn't get you this time. Oh well. Well, as you just witnessed, our special effects designers really can create any kind of weather we need to add realism to a scene. That flood is created by releasing thousands of gallons of recycled water from large tanks at the top of the hill. The effect can be reset every 2 minutes and has been used in movies like Earthquake with Charlton Heston and The River with Mel Gibson. Now, filmmakers did discover pretty early on rain does not show up all that well on film. Initially, they found that by adding milk to the water, the rain became more visible. So what that means, if you stop to think about it, is Gene Kelly was not singing in the rain, singing in the milk, which is just really, really gross. But okay, enough about milk, enough about Mexico. Right now, we're going to take a hop, a skip, and a jump north of the border. It's time to say hee-haw, because we're headed for the wild, wild west. This is Denver Street. Now, this is the oldest street here at Universal Studios Hollywood, originally built back in 1915. Now, things are quiet around here these days, but in the heyday of the Western, this town did see a whole lot of action. You know, the Western films always had a scene where the hero gets into a big fight. Guys are punched, slammed into walls, have chairs broken over their heads. They're even thrown through windows. Now, all those cowboys were very tough, but you know what? They were not crazy. The fights were all carefully choreographed Hollywood illusions. Punches were staged, walls were made out of styrofoam and foam rubber, chairs were made out of lightweight balsa wood, and windows were made of a flimsy breakaway material known as candy glass. Keep all of that in mind as you watch this.
Are they gonna fight?
You're just gonna stir things up here. You bet I am.
How dare you hit that man?
Mine hit the ground first. Mine was taller.
Well, I'm pretty sure you didn't have any trouble recognizing those last two cowboys. That was Kirk Douglas and Marion Michael Morrison. You probably know him by his stage name, which was, of course, John Wayne. Now, through the magic of the movies, we can take our actors, like John Wayne, and our audiences, like you, anywhere in the world we want to go, even the bottom of the ocean or the surface of the moon. And the secret for that is a sort of strange-looking round contraption on the left. That's our underwater tank. It allows us to keep our crew and our camera dry as we shoot the side. And the surface of the moon. Guess what? We just drove over it. This big intersection was transformed into the surface of the moon for a dream sequence in Apollo 13. That's it right there. Mr. Howard standing over here where the tram is, pan back towards the water tank, and there you have your moon. Now from the moon, we're gonna have to splash down that space capsule somewhere, right? So why not use the Pacific or the Atlantic Ocean? If you guys look here on the right, you'll see Park Lake. Believe it or not, we use this tiny little lake as an entire ocean on film by using clever camera angles and highly detailed miniature models like this miniature U-boat from the Oscar-winning film U-571 starring Matthew McConaughey. For that film, we use miniatures like that one. We also built a full-scale 600-ton replica of a German U-boat. See if you guys can tell the difference between the two. Pretty hard to tell the difference. That's the magic of special effects editing. And speaking of special effects, this is one of my favorites. This is the Red Sea, inspired by Paramount's The Ten Commandments. Now, it looks like Charlton Heston's already been here, so we're going to sneak right on through. You might recognize this effect. It was featured in 20th Century Fox's History of the World Part 1, starring Mel Brooks. And that marsh area over there on the left of the Red Sea, that was actually part of the Black Lagoon in the movie The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And now, from the Black Lagoon, it's time to let you in on one of the big secrets of the Universal Backlot. And that is the fact that around here, the world is just around the corner. And I actually mean that literally. We're going to take you from the Red Sea to London, or Paris, or Rome, or Berlin, or really any European city or country you want. This area right up ahead is known as Little Europe, and it can be transformed into any European city or country simply by changing the language that is written on the signs. Now currently, you can see some scaffolding over here on the left-hand side. They're actually setting this area up for the upcoming Mummy spin-off, The Scorpion King, starring The Rock. But in the past, you've seen our Little Europe set says Pamplona, Spain, for the running of the Bulls and Castle Rock's City Slickers, starring Billy Crystal. 20th Century Fox Television have used them as 18th Century Ireland on their series Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. UPN have used them as a holodeck on episodes of Star Trek Voyager. Disney have used them as a fairy tale kingdom for Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. And this past spring, you might have seen them as Mexico in the DreamWorks film The Mexican with Julia Roberts and Brad Pitt. Now that, of course, is the recent history of Little Europe. But you know what? These sets have been around since 1929 when they were first built for the movie All Quiet on the Western Front, which was the first Universal film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. Now, since we had the sets, we decided, hey, might as well use them again. So Little Europe, particularly this courtyard on our right, which is known as the Court of Miracles, was always the site of Universal's classic monster movies. Are fans of those monster movies, you probably remember that they all had a few things in common. There was always some sort of castle high on a hill. There was always bad weather, so they could have a dark and stormy night. And of course, there always had to be a very angry mob of villagers dead. But because he was already committed to star on television's Magnum P.I., he had to turn Steven Spielberg and George Lucas down. Now, of course, both Magnum P.I. and Raiders of the Lost Ark had a lot of exciting action and adventure. And you know what? Universal's action-adventure tradition continues to this day, right here inside of Soundstage 50, where we're working on an as-yet untitled action film for release late next year. Now, this is a hot set. What that means is that it is completely dressed, ready for filming to begin as soon as the director comes in here, yells action, and closes the doors for us, so we can actually get a peek at what they're working on in here today. Now, in addition to being used, that's interesting. You know what, guys? That was just a little tremor. They happen pretty frequently here in LA, but we're just going to leave the stage. We're not. Okay, everyone, please remain completely seated. Hold on to something, please. Oh, what's that noise? Where's that coming from? Second and third call. Oh, look out! The ceiling's collapsing back there! think the shaking stopped. So we're just gonna, oh my gosh. Now, in the real world, explosive action sequences like that one usually require weeks to shoot and take dozens of cuts, but when the scenes all come together in the movies, they look absolutely amazing. We're not done with the action yet. Here we are right back in the Wild West. This is 6 Points, Texas. Now, as we head through 6 Points today, I want y'all to pay close attention to one detail. 6 years ago, by a man-eating great white shark. The locals had a name for the 20-foot-long killing machine. They called him Jaws. Now, since that time, the killer shark has ruled the waters, crippling the town's tourist economy, leaving a path of death and destruction in his wake. Now, I hear that the people of Amity are very relieved these days because rumor has it they finally caught the shark. In fact, right now, police are doing a final sweep of the lake before opening the beaches again to tourists this Memorial Day. So come back this summer, experience the brand new Jaws the Attack, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. But now it's going to be safe not to go back into the water, but to go back into the heart of Texas. If you'll look over here on the right-hand side, this is Miss Mona's Chicken Ranch from the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, starring Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds. More recently, it was used for an upcoming television movie called The Day the World Ended. Now, why is the world ending? Well, that's a mystery to me. And to solve the mystery, let's ask an expert. He lives in the house with blue shutters, belonged to Ben Matlock. Matlock filmed here for a couple of seasons before moving on location to Wilmington, North Carolina. Now, his home is here at the end of Colonial Street. Let me tell you, he has some pretty interesting neighbors, including the ones who live in this gray house up here on the left. You might recognize it as 1313 Mockingbird Lane, home of the Munsters. Now, a much more wholesome family lived across the street. This was the home of the Cleaver family. I'll leave it to Beaver. And then next door to the Cleavers live the Hansons. This beautiful home can be seen every Friday night on NBC's Providence. But you know what? Despite these very nice families, this street has also had its fair share of trouble. It was infested with vampires in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, menaced by Freddy Krueger in New Line's Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6, and even destroyed by a killer comet in the Paramount DreamWorks hit Deep Impact, starring Morgan Freeman, Tay Leone, Robert Duvall, and Elijah Wood. But you know, despite the bad times, I do think it would have been kind of cool growing up on this street. I mean, imagine upright citizens like Ward and June Cleaver and the Hardy Boys living in the same neighborhood as Freddy Krueger and the toga-partying fraternity brothers of National Lampoon's Animal House. In fact, if you or I had grown up on this street, it might have gone a little something like this.
Up for a total board?
So there you go. You saw what Colonial Street looked like in a few movies. Obviously saw what it looked like today. Now I'm going to show it to you with a very creative coat of paint. Look in particular for the bright red house. You just saw it. It was the Cleaver home. I'll leave it to Beaver. And if you think that neighborhood is strange, well, get a load of this one. This is the neighborhood of Cindy Lou Who from The Grinch, starring Jim Carrey. Look closely at the Who houses. You'll see they're made out of styrofoam. And look at the car. It's just a shell that can be placed over a golf cart and then driven around the set. Now, Whoville is, of course, one of the newest areas on the backlot, and coincidentally, it sits right next door to one of our most famous classic sets. This yellow building on the right, well, guess what? This is the Bates Motel from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. And above it is the infamous Mansion on the Hill, one of the most recognizable sets in Hollywood history. Now, the house to the right, of course, is the original Bates Mansion. The one to the left is the one that was used in Gus Van Sant's 1998 remake of the classic Hitchcock thriller. Now, a few years ago, we actually had an incident up there at the original house that was eerily reminiscent of the events in the film. You see, one of our trams was driving by the front door when a man jumped out, dressed as Mother, brandishing a butcher knife, and came running towards the vehicle. He even went so far as to jump on board, which needless to say terrified the guests, not to mention the guide and the driver, who had no idea it was going to happen. Now, the man disappeared up the hill into the trees. He did not hurt anybody, and a few days later we found out who it was. It was Jim Carrey on Break from Mummy movie here on the back lot. Surprisingly, not a single person on board recognized him. Now, speaking of Mr. Carrey, he most recently played the Grinch. Whoville was actually right here on the left during production, but we had to clear out the Who's to make way for the dinosaurs. This is where they were doing some of the work for Jurassic Park 3. In fact, as we come past these trailers, if y'all look off to the left-hand side, you're going to see a very run-down-looking building. You might recognize it from the Lost World Jurassic Park. It was a communications building where everybody ran to escape those very hungry velociraptors. And look for that set again this summer in Jurassic Park 3. They spent the entire month of December in here filming, with that building completely covered in vines and trees. And as you guys probably know, Jurassic Park 3 is not the only big sequel being released by Universal this summer. Opening next week, we have The Mummy Returns, and opening in August, we have American Pie 2. But for now, we're going to leave the mummies, the teenagers, and the dinosaurs in the Lost World. And what are we going to find? Well, a log cabin. It was used in the movie The Great Outdoors with Dan Aykroyd and John Candy. And then just past that, as we come around the corner, that is the largest freestanding backdrop in Hollywood. Now, currently the backdrop is being prepped for an episode of the CBS television series Jag, but in the past, you've seen the backdrop painted to look like Monument Valley for Charlie's Angels. With the lake out front, it was used as the end of Truman's World in Paramount's The Truman Show, and it is also where we splash down our space capsule for Apollo 13. This is it coming up right here with the clouds painted on. They suspended a miniature space capsule from a helicopter to get that shot. Pretty amazing what they can do with some camera angles and some special effects, isn't it? Now, in recent years, there really have been a number of amazing advancements made in the motion picture industry, most of them involving computer-generated imagery. Using CGI, filmmakers have been able to sink the Titanic, they've been able to bring dinosaurs back from extinction, and in the summer of 1999, they were even able to wake a mummy from an ancient curse.
Hi, I'm Stephen Summers, the writer-director of The Mummy. When I began this project, I knew it was going to be a challenging shoot. The biggest challenge was to recreate the mysterious world of ancient Egypt and a very threatening monster that could frighten a modern-day audience. Luckily, I had my buddies up at George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic on my side. For The Mummy, ILM used a combination of live-action footage of actor Arnold Vosloo with computer-generated imagery in a way that had never before been seen on film. The end result was truly amazing, and a new era in motion picture effects was born.
And now, as a special treat, we're going to show you some of the sets that were used in the making of The Mummy. Now, the crew told us that some weird things happened in here. They actually abandoned this set, claiming it was cursed. But what I claim that there being a big bunch of babies. I mean, come on, guys, there's no such thing as a curse. And to prove that, we're going to go into the heart of the mummy's tomb. In fact, look over here on the right. I think we have some treasure. It's moving. Why is... Ew! Ew, that is not treasure. That's bugs. Ew, those are those nasty scarab beetles from the movie. I don't like them very much. You might remember they kind of had a tendency to bite, but they also looked pretty busy back there, so we're just going to try and sneak past. Hopefully they'll leave us alone to get... Oh. Okay, I can admit when I'm wrong. I think this place might be cursed after all. Hang on, everyone. I'm gonna bug you too much. Close your eyes. Say what? There, is that you? It's not, is it? Uh-oh. I think it's... That's him! The mummy, evil temp, he's in the tomb with us and all sorts. They're surrounding the tram! Okay, go away! Go away, we don't have anything for you! Hey, look, that worked! That worked, they're going! Yes, we're gonna be fine, we're just gonna hear that noise. Uh-oh, did you guys hear that? That can be only one thing. Scarab, beetles, in fact it sounds like they're coming directly towards the tram. They must be retreating through the heat from the engine. This is not gonna be really, we really do not want flesh-eating bugs. There's a bug on the tram, there's a bug, oh, there's one, there's gonna be more. There's a bug on the floors, the ceilings, your arms, your legs, your face. Oh no, that did not feel good at all. I think I'm gonna need a Band-Aid or 50. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is what we like to call Beetlejuice. No? Okay. I'm wrong. That was the curse of the Mummy's Tomb, and as I mentioned earlier, the Mummy returns to theaters nationwide next Friday.
You like it?
Dismay. An adventure is reborn. The Mummy returns. This film is not yet rated.
Okay, so the Mummy returns in just about 1 week, and in just about 1 minute, we're going to be returning all of you to the theme park. But before we do that, I do want to give you one last chance to see the movie studio that we just visited. It's over here on the right, down at the bottom of the hill, Universal Studios Hollywood. Although, as we showed you today through the eyes of the camera, that tiny little backlot can look like the entire world on film. And just to let you know what else you're looking at, in the distance is the Lakeside Country Club. That's a private golf course in Toluca Lake, California. And just beyond that, you can see some sandy-colored sound stages. Those belong to the Warner Brothers Movie and Television Studios. And now, back to Universal. I'm going to have our special guest, Ron Howard, to tell you about a few of our greatest hits.
Universal's founder, Carl Laemmle, had a vision. He wanted to make movies that would make audiences laugh, or cry, or sit on the edge of their seat.